Hi, my name is Carlos Davila Rinaldi, Puerto Rico. I mean, I was pretty young. I come from a artistically inclined family, so from early on, that was something that was going on in me. And my father used to he used to kind of entertain me by drawing. And actually, that's the way I started to learn to draw. I would imitate his drawings. And he had like several drawings that did always the same drawing, and I would try to imitate what he was doing. So that was kind of like what woke up my interest in art as such. And the other thing was that my father was in the Air Force, so we moved to Japan. At age 4, I moved to Japan. So Japanese culture, the art is like very, very important. So my parents, they made it a habit to go on the weekends and go out to the country, and we would actually visit artists that would do the landscape screens that you see out there. Yeah, so I was surrounded by art from the get-go. So I would say, I've always been interested in art, and I always wanted to be an artist. Well, it was the source of expression. I could express myself. I was pretty shy as a kid, so my way to get friends and everything was actually to draw. That I drew attention because of that. So it was kind of I use it as a tool, but it just allowed me to express myself and paint and draw things that interest me. I used to be my parents used to get called up all the time for me daydreaming. And I was a daydreamer, but I was a daydreamer because I was looking at things that I thought were interesting. And usually creative minds work like that. They capture little details that no one else is paying attention to. So yeah, I guess I was dreaming a little bit. I mean, for a kid, I was doing some pretty sophisticated stuff. No stick figures. I wasn't, I got over stick figures right away. I was drawing bodies and faces and eyes and lips, and it was pretty real what I was doing. I would copy pictures. I loved cartoons. I loved comic books. So all those things I started picking up on and would imitate. So yeah. Yeah, actually, at the beginning, a lot of people I drew attention because I could draw, but at the same time, as I grew, that kind of turned into something that was, I don't know how to put this, but it was sissy stuff. It was something that kind of they made fun of me sometimes. So the struggle for me was always, like whenever I said I wanted to be an artist, they would always say stuff like the typical, "Oh, you're gonna be a starving artist. You're not gonna make any money doing that. You should do something else." So yeah, and then the other thing was I used to play football, and the art and the football didn't quite match up. So I played football in high school and I played in college. In college was when I had to really make a decision on what I wanted to do, because my practices started at 4 o'clock and my art classes finished at 4. I was never on time to practice. And I used to catch a lot of heat for that. Till one day I said, you know, I know I'm going to be an artist. I'm not going to play in the NFL. So, yeah. I mean, they would. I mean, I could hold my own ground, but yeah, they would try. I mean, sometimes I was intriguing for them. You know, when I told them that I was painting, I had figure drawing class, and we had nude models. That was like that ranked me for a while, you know? And they wanted to find out more about that. So yeah, but I mean, I caught a little heat for being an artist. So, when I graduated in 1980, I moved back to Puerto Rico. I decided to take a whack at art for art's sake, you know, live off the art. It was tough, but I didn't want to go and get a job as a waiter like all my peers in art were like waiting tables and doing odd jobs that had nothing to do with art. So I tripped up on advertising. I had a friend that had a agency, and I used to see what the art directors were doing. And I used to always tell him, hey, you know, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that. And one fine day, he offered me a job. Part-time job, come in at 12 o'clock, work till 5. And that was like my first job, which I thought was pretty cool because it had to do with art. So I wasn't getting away from what I had studied and what I was prepared to do. So, I mean, yeah, I consider myself a contemporary artist. I do have, I produce a lot of work. I produce a lot of work. I'm not, I have a body of work that's abstract, and I feel very at home in that genre. But in my education was a classic education. You know, I learned how to paint, you know, almost picture-like. So I have that background, and I've always drawn. I'm always drawing, usually figuratively. You know, I draw. I go out and eat, and I paint. I draw the people that are eating or sitting at the table or standing in line, whatever. So I do have like 2 separate bodies of work, but the figurative one in the 90s took a twist and became more about social criticism and the politics of what's happening here in Puerto Rico, social problems. It was like my way of having a voice or a say in things that bother me. So I have had this parallel production of art. One in the figurative work, more towards the social criticism, and then my abstract work, which is my go-to, and perhaps where I produce the most amount of work. I think my art is, in both cases, it's about experience. It's about what I'm living. It's about what's around me.
Yeah.
It's about problems that I have. It's about good stuff that happens to me. It's about bad stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's connected in that sense. Obviously, visually it's different. There's something about doing an abstract painting that's actually pleasing because you're, you know, depending on how it's been planned. If I'm painting straight onto the canvas, there's a process going on where I'm constantly evaluating the piece. And, you know, do I like where it's going? Sometimes it takes me where I don't want to go. But I accept it, and I'll keep on moving in that direction. Sometimes I'll just cover it up and paint again. So, and I like that. I like having that process that you can actually see. That's why I tend to use a lot of transparencies, so you can actually see the struggle that has been going on as I paint. I always refer to it as that. It is a kind of an exorcism. I use music a lot. So the music sometimes and the way it's moving, I get possessed by that music. So that rhythm, as far as the action of painting, will be reflected somehow. And sometimes I will name a painting after a song, because I feel that song when I see the painting. So I do feel like I'm like getting out stuff, and I can tell you, if I don't paint for a couple of days, I don't feel so good. I'm not really easy to be around when I haven't painted. So yeah, it keeps me cool, it keeps me calm. Yeah, journeys. I love taking road trips, and usually road trips make it to a lot of my paintings. I take a road trip and I'm looking for stuff, so that happens automatically. But I am into sketchbooks. I always have a sketchbook. Now I use an iPad to capture images. I always take a camera, and I have to weed all these things out because I can't paint everything that I draw. I draw like constantly. But I usually select something, and then I'll develop it. If I go to Luquillo and I'm at the kioscos and someone's playing pool and there's an interesting light coming in through the back, and I can see the beach in the background, and there's some tourists ordering some alcapurrias, that all, it's all part of a story, and I'll capture it. I'll draw it, and then I'll somehow put it down in a painting. If I'm traveling down an old road and I see the tree-covered roads with the light seeping in, sometimes I'll stop and I'll actually draw it or take pictures, and that will become a new image for something, for a painting further in the future. The old roads is one of my series that I've done for a while now, and I'm always looking for new angles on how to approach that particular vision or view. If something happens, Maria was a source of inspiration. Seeing the people from all social economic levels in the same line suffering the same thing. Money couldn't really buy you a place in line, so that was an interesting thing, and I drew a lot about that, and I painted a lot about that. I have a grandchild now. I'm sure he's going to come into the scenario soon, and I'll start painting him, and doing paintings of him. So, yeah, it's my inspiration's around me. It's what's around me and what I'm feeling. I have a very deep dark side. That comes out a lot in the figurative work, when I'm doing paintings on criticizing something, I can get really, really, really dark. Dark humor, very dark humor. Yeah, and I'll push the envelope on that. I mean, it's in most of those situations, I'm really helpless. I feel helpless. So to be able to put it on canvas and kind of poke at it and make fun and say something about it, I feel good that I'm doing that. It's like I have a voice and someone's hearing me, and I think it's kind of cool because, you know, the way the media is nowadays, people are becoming immune to news. So it's kind of refreshing, let's say, to all of a sudden you go in a gallery and then you capture something that you didn't see in the news, but it's been there, and then all of a sudden you're seeing it in a painting, and it gets to you at a different level. I mean, these pieces become almost documentary. You know, they capture a moment in time of an issue that was going on. You know, and then it's kind of like a historical thing. You know. Since I paint a lot and I do a lot of work, I have a tendency to, you know, like once I start with something that I see that has legs that I can continue developing, I will do series. They fall within a series. So I have the accumulation series. The accumulation series started as studies of all the little things that used to be in gumball machines. You know, you put a quarter in the machine to turn it, and then a bunch of little toys and stuff. So I used to do like individual drawings of all these things. And then I started putting them down on canvas, very meticulously, very figurative, you know, like they're all very, very perfect. And as time went on, they turned I started making them automatic. Since I had learned so much about each of these objects, I already knew what they were, so I could just do it automatically. And that developed a visual language that now when you look at the accumulation series, all that's in there, but it has gotten a lot more abstract. One of the ones that has resonated the most has been the old roads that we talked about. That for some reason I find that doing them square is the best. So they're almost all of them are done on a perfect square. Usually with the, you know, 2-point perspective, the road going into the space, and then the trees on the side, and then I play a lot with the light, the way the light comes through, the time of day. I've done day paintings, I've done night paintings, I've done paintings that the road goes by the beach. I mean, now they've gotten to the point, again, which is a tendency of mine. I will study something so much and draw so much that it gets to a point where it's automatic, and then I can just count on my mind to remember what it looks like. And I make up places, you know, and I make up roads. You know what gives me a lot of satisfaction? I'm never pleased with how much I work. But you know, every now and then I clean the studio, and I have to like file things away, and that's when I noticed that, and I kind of pat myself on the back. I said, you know, dude, you've been working. You're okay. You know, don't be so hard on yourself. So that those moments are always nice for me. And the other moments is, you know, being able to somehow be in a show that's important, a group show that's important, a collection that's important, and sharing with other artists and being considered for, you know, for an exhibit that's of importance, or historically, or for Puerto Rico, or for outside of Puerto Rico. So yeah, when those things happen, they fill me. You know, they make me feel good. And I actually have groupies. You know, I have people that really follow me. You know, there are a lot of collectors they collect an array of artists, but I do have some collectors that have a lot of my paintings, and those in particular are very special people for me. You know, we become almost like, you know, like friends. You know, I've been invited to weddings of my collectors. You know, so it's yeah, you become almost family, and they will write you, hey, what have you been doing, you know, and you kind of keep in touch with them, and they're interested in what you're up to. So yeah, several years ago I started playing around with an iPad, actually an iPad that belonged to my nephew, that he left laying around, and I started downloading some art programs, and I had seen that David Hockney uses iPad to do a lot of his works, and I actually saw them printed out. So I was, you know, I did some research, found the programs he was using, downloaded them, and then I started working on my own stuff. And then I actually started printing. I printed out a lot of the work, and I was really amazed at actually the way the brushes looked on the image. So one thing led to another. Now I'm using a more sophisticated program, Procreate, which is has endless possibilities. And since I'm such a freak of carrying around sketchbooks, the iPad has become my new sketchbook. And it's really cool because, you know, in the sketchbook world, usually I take a pen or a pencil, and I basically stay in one color. With the iPad, you have colors at hand. So I can actually do proposals for paintings with color scheme and everything, and kind of think out what I want a painting to look like. So it's been an interesting tool for me, and I've been using it a lot lately. And I'm planning on doing in the future, near future, hopefully, an exhibit of these digital drawings and paintings that I've been doing. If this is really something you want to do, you're gonna have to stick it out. You know, it's not. Doesn't come overnight. It doesn't happen overnight. Be consistent and be persistent. A lot of times along the way, I never had the feeling of giving up. I was pretty sure of myself, but I've seen so many of my colleagues along the way just they give up. People can be pretty harsh in this world, you know, and when they talk about your work, when they address what you're doing, it can be almost offensive. So you have to kind of grow some rough skin and roll with the blows. And if you're consistent and you just keep on doing your work, I mean, comes a time where things are going to start happening. Well, you know, I had a career in advertising while I was painting, but my painting was the most important thing. The career in advertising was basically to pay for the infrastructure that I needed to paint, you know, and be able to buy. I wasn't going to have time to stretch canvas, so I had to hire someone to stretch canvas. I wanted to have the best paint. I wanted to use the best materials. I wanted to have a studio. All those things at the beginning, didn't come through the art. It came through the work I did as an art director and in advertising. So I was able to find a job that actually fed my art, because there was a lot of things that I learned in advertising that I've applied now as an artist. So, you know, I've learned to market myself, even though I like to be subtle about that. Yeah, I think that if you can find something that can help you, give you a helping hand. I decided to do something that had to do with art, not something completely different. Because I always felt that it would feed the other. And you stay within this discipline somehow. Well, now we have this thing called social media that, I mean, it took the world by storm, and it also took advertising agencies by storm. A lot of them still don't understand what happened. So yeah, I mean, through advertising, I learned how to reach out to these people. I mean, I don't have a super load of followers now, but I have a healthy group of followers. And basically what I've seen is, you know, content is the name of the game. Interesting content. It doesn't have to be all about the art. It can be, you know, like I said, I was a daydreamer before, so those things that I daydream about can be part of the feed, because people want to know about you. I try to think I am showing my process. I do a lot of posting while a painting is being done. So people will see, you know, I'll post the iPad drawing, and then I'll post the first drawing on the canvas that I'm going from one media to the other. And yeah, so actually the painting I'm working on now is I'm going through that process. I mean, there are people that dare to do those kind of things. You know, it's all good. You know, you should paint more of this. You should paint this. I'd love to see one of these by you. You know,
right?
Yeah, I mean, I get that. But basically, it's just, you know, they just say nice comments like, I like that. NFTs, that's been kind of like a tough. I've been learning like crazy for the last few months. I have had to go to school. I know that it's a digital asset that's well guarded. That no one, you know, whoever owns it has it, and then no one else can get to it. So it's what has always amazed me is the values of these things. I don't know if that's the way it is, or if you know, the first editions of these things caused all this. I mean, it shook up the art world. So there was, you know, there was a lot of back and forth of whether or not that was true art. I think it is. I think it can be. I think there's a lot of people probably that are going to be flushed out as things develop, because I think more and more real artists are going to start coming in. Like anything new, there's going to be sometimes there's a lot of resistance to things that are new, and especially the snobbish art world that that all of a sudden their territory has been invaded somehow. So, but I see the art world reacting to the NFTs, and I'm actually following what's going on out there, and seeing that there's big name artists that are starting to get into it. So yeah, that shines new light for me anyway. Well, yeah, for sure. One of the things that I like about it is the way you're exposed to such a big market. Painting on an island, you have a limited public. Social media helps me, but to have that, these marketplaces that reach millions of people all of a sudden available with good search engines and stuff, and particular themes, I think it's going to be good for all Caribbean artists and artists from all over the world. Actually, it's going to be a good thing to have an artist from Trinidad, an artist from Puerto Rico, an artist from Africa, an artist. That's going to be interesting, because people can actually look, African art, boom, okay, there's NFTs of African art. Culturally, we are very rich here in Puerto Rico. We have a lot in the arts, in music, a lot of artisanal things that we do. I think we will be important within that world. It all depends on why you're buying it. Artwork should be bought because you like it. Artwork, if you're really into it, you're gonna live with this thing, So I kind of get upset when someone says, I'm looking for a yellow painting because I have a yellow wall and I want to, that kind of thing. What happens when they paint the wall white? Is the yellow painting not going to be good enough for them anymore? So I prefer them to select something that has nothing to do with decorative color matching or whatever, and more to do with something that really pleases them. They like to wake up in the morning and sit down and drink coffee and look at the painting and find something new in it every day. So yeah. Well, this studio, even though I still paint in it from time to time. I've used it more now as the place to present and look at finished works. So in here, you're going to see a vast amount of small works and large format works that are finished and ready to find a new home, to keep on living with me, whatever. Yeah. So, and then I have another studio on the other side, which is it looks like a hangar for a small airplane hangar, and it's a 75-foot long tube where I have like movable walls, and that's where I'm painting now. Every day I paint in there. So yeah, I have that set up, kind of like a storage and studio at the same time. I have a lot of working space. So yeah.
Well, thanks for inviting us into your studio and telling us about your career, Carlos. Good luck.
Thank you.